Hey traders, happy Friday. This is Christian Fromhertz, Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day and the week recap for Friday, November 20th. So we'll get to that week performance for the market. First, let's go over a little bit about today's price action. You could see I've got a couple things there in the red. SPY. I'll zoom in here a little bit for you because every once in a while I'll get a comment that you can't read this stuff on the YouTube channel. By the way, YouTube always takes about 20-25 minutes before it goes like high def. So if you're ever opening up one of these videos and you can't see anything, it's blurry, just give it a little bit longer. YouTube, for whatever reason, takes a little bit time, and I'm always in a rush to kind of send this stuff out end of day. So that's why it's blurry. But in any event, SPY finished down right exactly the same thing as what the Qs did for the day, down about 70 basis points for the day. A little bit of an end of the day sell-off, probably a little bit of a combination of things. Today was monthly option expiration. Plus, it just seems like these Fridays going into these weekends are a little bit of tomfoolery. How's that for technical term? We do see just a little bit of erratic price action, and to kind of go along with that pattern, like you get a little bit down sometimes when you see the Friday price action, and then Monday we gap up. So I'm not. We don't know if that's going to happen, obviously, this Monday, but that's what the pattern has been. So. Small caps did pretty well again today. They're kind of a little bit sneaky in there. They finished up on the day positive, up 10 basis points, and they rallied throughout the session again. Then, of course, this is interesting too, which I should have this highlighted in green, which I don't. But the bonds have been strong, and for the week, bonds really outperformed equities, U.S. equities, pretty decently for the week. I don't think a lot of people thought that was going to happen for the week. Probably me included in there too. VIX was up a little bit for the day, with the market down just a touch. For the day, same story, kind of what we've been seeing. Similar story here. Clean energy stocks. Just on fire, right now. For the week, they were the best performing group. Again, I'll get to the week's performance in just a second, but I think they were up like 12% for the week. So we'll talk about. I want to talk a little bit about that too, but I want to go through just the rest of the week, the rest of the day's performance. Solar stocks too. They actually were the best, I think, out of the group that I've got here for the day. For the day's performance, up 2.4%. Chinese internets. We're continuing to kind of see some strength in some of the names that are reporting, and Baba had a nice day today, allowed me to get out of my swing trade today in Alibaba. Biotech did okay in there too. What didn't perform well, the semiconductors a little bit for the day with Nvidia down a little bit again. And then aerospace and defense, it's kind of an interesting day too, because we've seen this started with, I think, Wednesday, I want to say. I'm going to get my days wrong here, but in any event, we started to see growth names come back and momentum areas of the market, momentum names come back, and that carried through basically through the end of the week. I thought we might see a little bit more of that value come back into play, but it's what I've been trying to basically communicate is that you can have ideas, every day to kind of come out with and set yourself up with what you think is going to happen for the day. But if that's not the story for the day, try to remain as objective as possible and go with wherever that momentum is going. Because we talked about this in the Q&A session earlier for members, but even with the market kind of a little bit choppy the last couple of days, there's been some really good trading opportunities in this choppy market. So there's certainly been a number of very good trading opportunities that's been taking place this week and every day this week. We've been finding some really nice relative strength to kind of play. Trending names for the day too, right? We talked a little bit about that in yesterday's video, that there's sometimes it's tough to find names that trend for the day. A lot of times we see that movement where we get that gap up into the open and that's another thing that really didn't happen the last couple of days this week too, is we haven't gotten that gap up and then a sell off on the open, or a little bit of selling pressure on the open, right? So that also led to some better trading opportunities when we kind of start the session in red rather than green, right? So that's just typically how it unfolds. Those days, remember when we do gap up, the best thing that I see to do in those days is to take profits on the open and then walk away a bit, and wait till things kind of digest. But again, it's one of those things that you learn with a little bit of experience, that gap ups you try to sell on the open, and days where we start the day red, a little bit better trading opportunities. So we experienced that this week. All right, so I mentioned that a couple of these areas I wanted to talk about. Absolutely. So this PBW, right? And obviously, it's a very interesting ETF, right? It is now. I mean, it's gone from 71 to 84. Pretty much in a straight line, right? Or even 65, right? We went through value. This was that first gap up that we saw a couple weeks ago on the vaccine news, but very, very strong. So how long does this last, right? That's probably the number one question. Well, I have no idea, right? We know that we've seen this kind of play out in a similar fashion before, where in years past, like over the last 5 years, remember when blockchain became a big thing, right? There was about 10, different companies that everybody was talking about in terms, and then it grew probably to 15. All these anything that had to do with blockchain was going up. Some of these names are reoccurring now a little bit now that Bitcoin is up again, right? We're seeing names like Riot Blockchain, Mara is another name too, Overstock a little bit in there too, right? Those were names that we saw go up last time. But my point here is that these names that are going up, like some of these names are doubling or have doubled in a week's time, like this Blink, BLNK, Solo is another one too, BLDP, maybe not doubled in the last week, but super hot. So just kind of, I would say, remember that this story plays out a lot, right? Another group, I always kind of show this chart of Tillery, right? The cannabis names from about, how long ago was this? Was it 2 years ago? Or maybe it wasn't that long ago, right? When this happened in Tillery, right? Crazy move, right? The stock went from 17. So it can get crazier, right? This stock, once it came out of the base, Tillery, was $20. Then a couple weeks later, 40, 60, and then it topped out at 300. So there's a couple lessons to learn about this momentum when it gets nuts like this, as it is now in clean energy stocks. Number one, I would not fade any of these moves, because even if you think they're crazy, which I agree they are, for a name to double in a week is quite, ridiculous in my opinion. But notice what that Tillery did. It doubled several times over. So if you try to get in front of that thing, you got ran over until it actually broke. So what's the general rule with this? Stick with the trend until it's not a trend anymore. No one, no matter all these people with the crystal balls on Twitter, knows how long a trend is going to last. Let me say that again. No one knows how long a trend is going to last. So when this thing got to 300, then of course once it did break, right? It tried to come back and try to rally here, failed a bit, and then it definitely failed. Trying to make a newer relative or newer high here from this point. It failed here, and then every point from there often it made a lower high. All right, so lower high here, lower high here, lower high here. All the way down. Oh, we're at 100. Good. It's a good buying opportunity. It was just at 300. Lower high, lower, at 80, 70, 60, 50. all the way back to 17. Now, so where's this thing now? $7, right? So that's how some of these things will probably end, right? For names that are really just getting a lift because everybody's gravitating them. So that's number one. The number one lesson is to don't get in front of the trend while it's still up. And then number two, sometimes it will come undone very quickly. Don't fight the trend on the way down either. All right, so that's kind of, and we don't know right now what stage we're in. Obviously, this group is stretched, right? There's no doubt about it, right? The RSI right now is what? Is a 78. So it's hot. It's not a 90 or upper 80s, but it's definitely hot. But there's no sell signal, right? There's no sell signal yet, even though it does look euphoric to me. Next group, solar. Solar's paused a little bit. After making a really nice move here, it took out. I think it did take out that VPOC up there. But it's kind of revving back up again. So, we had some names that we talked about earlier in the week. I think I put this one name out on Twitter earlier. ENPH had a nice week. Here was I think the chart that I put out was, hey, watch the break of 122. Failed on the first couple attempts there, and then once it got going, ran from 122 to 130. The name that we talked about this morning as a setup, and I missed this one. I was kind of mad at myself because, I was looking at a couple other names. But SEDG was up 5.7% today. So this one is bouncing kind of where, I was going to say where it has before, but not exact. Well, it kind of ducked underneath the 50-day moving average here, but, it's coming back pretty decently. One name I'm watching in this group is CSIQ. It had earnings this week, didn't have a great reaction to it, but sometimes they don't have great earnings reactions. So we'll keep an eye on that name. So those are the groups that are showing, significant momentum right now. And then, of course, names, that, for instance, a couple of momentum names that all start with the letter T. Remember, Team saw some weekly call buying earlier in the week. I jumped in that trade. I missed today's price action though, but that was right in here, right when we saw that call buying. So 186 to 208. Right, Twilio had a nice week too. Kind of stalled out today, but again, gave you day trading opportunities. And then the other one is TTD, which also had a phenomenal week too. So these were all names that I talked about on Twitter as well. So again, a lot of momentum right in these areas. So if we switch over to, and here's how I traded today too. I always like to show the, obviously my trade blotter and what I did. Baba, you've heard me talk about this name a couple times this week. I took this trade off today, right? Real nice, real nice turn. Could this continue to turn higher? It definitely could. For me, I was just kind of looking for a bounce, especially once we took out, right, a couple of these 1 hour VPOCs were taken out. And also this one was taken out on the daily. What was a little bit tricky with this was there was another VPOC down here which did not get taken out. And again, they don't always have to get taken out, these virgin point of controls. They don't always have to get realized. Once we got into value, you got a little bit of a back test here at around 257 and a nice run to 270. So that was good enough for me. And I took my profits in Alibaba. Snap was a name that we sent out a video on yesterday. I talked about how multiple breaks of value, one on the 1 hour. So again, lined up on multiple time frames, and then also we broke out on the daily chart as well. I had a couple of people tell me, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, the valuation or some other thing." No, it's you got to wait for this. Pop, 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 pop. Nope. That worked really well for a trade. So I'm out of 3/4 of that trade on the nice strength, right? And again, there's no sell signal, so letting my winner run a little bit. after taking, again, 75% of the trade off. All right, and those were a couple trades. I did try to fade solo for a day trade. Citron was out with a negative note saying it should be priced at $2. He may be eventually right, but he may have to sit through pain for that one. We sent out a video on CPRT, right? So if you remember, you got the info on that one. And if you're not a member, sign up to be a member. All right. So, we're trying to do that every time I put on a swing trade to basically send out a little bit of video about what the criteria is and what the thinking is, what the rationale behind the trade is. All right. So that's that. So yeah, that was basically it. I put on this little TCS trade yesterday too, which was nice to have a smaller trade work. Again, just a lot of momentum. It's up 7% today. Kramer had the CEO on last night, so really nicely done. So I mentioned I'd go over the week's performance. Yep. So S&P, Dow, Qs finished red for the week, right? Just barely, fractionally. And IWM outperformed against 2.3%. And that's a couple weeks now of outperformance for small caps. Also, international areas outperformed both EEM and so emerging markets and EFA, international developed, up over 1%. Bonds had a big week this week. Like I said, up over 2%. Gold was off. We talked about clean energy. Interesting also, clean energy and traditional energy. XOP was up 11%. I'm sorry, OIH, oil services, were up 11%. XOP wasn't up as that much, but still outperformed, keeping pace with the clean energy names. Retail had a good week. Steel, semis had a good week. Surprised we don't see software in here, but I guess it wasn't up that much for the week. Maybe perhaps it sold off in the beginning of the week too. Gold miners, utilities. Interesting. A lot of defensive groups sold off this week. So utilities in particular down 3.9% for the week. And international, it's Greek to me. Greece was up 7%. So again, a lot of emerging market areas there, or a little bit more higher beta European country ETFs did very well this week. All right, so there's your performance. I like to give every once in a while, especially at month ends, my performance. Remember, we have what did I do with this slide? Let's see if I can find it really quick. Remember, I do three types. We've got three programs, right? I try to cater to different types of investors and traders. Let's see if I can find this very quickly. Maybe it's from this weekend. Yeah, here we go. All right, so here's the three programs that we do at Tribeca Trade Group. We do the trade, of course, trading account, which is predominantly, where my focus is during the week, right? Option and stock trading. All right, so my performance so far, if we go over to the TTG Portfolio channel, all right, so I'm looking good here. There's a little bit of an E-Trade issue that I'm working. This is a screenshot from E-Trade. There's a little bit of a timing issue, and for my calculations, my independent calculations are off about 10%. So I'm trying to remedy that with their operations area. So hopefully I'll have that corrected by the end of the month. But you can see, I'm up nicely. I'm very pleased with the performance for that, for the trading account. For the trend portfolio, right? So this is just an all stock and ETF portfolio that I'm basically, a little bit longer term, right? It's a portfolio that's going to stay out there, and I'm going to rebalance it every couple of weeks. The performance since I only have the performance here since it's switched out of Motif investing, which is where I was doing the portfolio rebalances. Motif went away. They sold to Folio, so I only have the performance going back since the middle of May is when that happened. That's up about 35% there. And then the last trade that we just started doing a couple months back, we started doing this in August. This is the watch list trade where every weekend I put together a member watch list, names that are setting up nicely on the market webs indicator, right? And I'm looking again for names that are breaking out of consolidation and so forth. And so again, we started doing this program in August, and then what I do, of course, like I buy that portfolio on Monday's open. This one is done in a brokerage system called M1 Finance, and I hold that portfolio through the week until Friday, and then I sell out of the portfolio and I buy hold SPY over the weekend. I do do the process of going through and looking for a new watch list for the week, and then I go ahead and buy that. So this portfolio, last one, so August 10th is the specific date, is up 20%. So, all in all, I obviously do a lot of work to, to get this performance to what it is. I'm very competitive and show my results for how we're doing. And, we'll continue to do that every month and hopefully, we'll continue to outperform. Can't guarantee, this is not a guarantee of future performance, but I will be guaranteed that I will continue to work as hard as I do to get this, to where these three programs that I run to do this well. So, or that's the goal, to get them to do very well. All right, guys. So that's it. Enjoy your weekend. Please, 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 be safe, stay healthy. Next week, of course, for the markets, we have, a full day on Wednesday. We're off a full day on Thursday for Thanksgiving, of course. And then half a day on Friday. The markets close at 1 o'clock on Friday, and that can often be a fun trading day, especially if there's any news that happens because the volume's a little bit lighter. So sometimes, not always, but sometimes it could be a fun day to trade. All right, guys, that's it for the weekend. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys on Monday.